Indeed, Stephen, the pigs are going to have fun.
The pigs are back. Pigs
Welcome
in the basement.
Back. It's Swine Before Pearls, episode 52.
Pigs in the basement.
Pigs in the blanket.
There are no blankets. Pigs in a basement.
Maybe
drinking coffee at 8.
Have you ever considered though, if we were in a blanket together as we recorded the podcast, it'd be like thematically appropriate.
Okay, why are you saying this on the podcast? And then now our opposing podcast, Pearls Before Swine, is going to take our idea.
No, not Pearls Before Swine,
Pearls
the
Before
Bible
Swine.
study podcast.
You one episode wonder. We're not going to take any hate, any slack from you. So
yeah,
our army
rivals.
of 3 followers are going to get you. It's 3 now.
Yeah, we're big boys now.
We're big boys. We got 3. How many do you have?
None.
Actually,
I don't know that. Maybe they're really popular. That one episode popped off.
Maybe we should just review that sometime.
Yeah. Maybe that can be Patreon content when we have 5 followers and one of them pays for our funds.
We'll call it Scouting the Competition.
All right. So we're talking about pet sounds this week.
By the Beach Boys.
Yeah. Which I actually really wanted to talk about pet sounds because it was such like a unique experience for me going in and listening. And it's just a whole hour of goat sounds. And I'm sitting there the whole time like, when do these goat sounds end? And they don't. And it's really weird as far as art goes, but I just listened to it on loop over and over and over again. And finally I got it. Pet sounds paved the way. It walked so that
aquarium sounds could run.
Yes. No.
Wait, pets are still aquarium. I mean,
honestly though, like the title did like kind of turn me off to the album at first because I'd never heard it. So I was like, how could you not
like an album called Pet Sounds?
I thought it'd be like actual pet sounds.
Did you actually think
that?
Yeah,
I thought it was gonna be weird.
You thought the Beach Boys were going to produce an entire album of just barnyard animals.
Not just, but like I thought they'd be like implemented in weird ways, and I'd be like, "What's this?"
To be fair, there is a song where dogs are barking and a train is going by, and I thought, you know what? This is why they call it Pet Sounds.
Yeah, well, that's actually the reason.
All right, that's it. End of podcast.
All right, let's go. Right. Pack it up.
This camera adds new dimensions to my figure.
For people who aren't watching the video, they're not going to see that we actually like got up. It won't be as funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We got up and we walked away. That was the
haha. That's so funny.
End of bit.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So had you listened to, like, were you aware of the album? Like, what was your previous experience with this album beforehand?
I had not listened to it whatsoever, which I'm surprised that like I hadn't even come across like God Only Knows, because
really
it's like it's pretty steeped in like the, I guess, history of music. So
yeah,
I'm surprised I didn't at least come across that. I did actually. One of my favorite bands, AJR, sampled Sloop John B.
Okay,
and
cool.
I didn't know about that. So they sampled like the "I feel so broke up, I wanna go home."
Yeah. So you heard their sample, and then did you just discover that with?
I discovered that with the album.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're going through it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you found out on the podcast that we were covering Pet Sounds.
Yeah, because I kept thinking it was Rolling Stones.
No. But
which is just the website that we get all these from.
But you immediately reacted that you loved Pet Sounds. So tell us a little more about that.
I mean, so you know, I'm an extroverted guy, so I think I jump into situations with like, I love that.
Yeah.
I might not necessarily. So there was probably like 3 songs that I knew off this album. I actually, God Only Knows has been a pretty prevalent song for a while for me. So there's this game called BioShock Infinite. It's by far the worst of the BioShock games from what I hear. I only played BioShock Infinite, so sue me. But they have a quartet, like a vocal, like barbershop quartet version in the game of God Only Knows. And I just thought that was really cool. It's just like a really cool sounding song. And then my cousin comes up to me one day and he's like, "Hey, me and some of my buddies are doing the barbershop quartet version of God Only Knows. Will you help practice with me for my parts and sing the harmony?" So I was kind of helping my cousin out with his barbershop quartet, and I got to learn it along the way. And I don't know, it's just a very vocally, it's, and just like musically wise, it's just a great song. So I already kind of had, and of course, like, wouldn't it be nice? I already had some previous experience, but the album as a whole, I think a good trend for me is I realize I don't listen to whole albums. I definitely cherry pick songs that I like and then never bother listening to the whole thing. But I
Yeah.
was aware that from the two songs that I did like, there was something to be excited about. So
Which I'm the exact opposite of you. I think most of my music listening is albums. I just go straight through albums, listen to
you're
the
a
whole thing, don't skip
psychopath.
anything. I'm I'm crazy.
You're a
Uh,
psychopath.
I think that like the album as an art form is like super interesting
Yeah.
and uh like I love that it's individual pieces of art put together as a cohesive piece of art,
Mm,
and those pieces of art like add meaning to each other,
yeah.
and there's a structure to everything, and that's why I love albums. As
Yeah.
I feel like you can get tired of an individual song, but I don't get tired of albums nearly as quickly. Even though, like, if I listen to one of the songs on that album the same amount, I would get tired of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like watching a season of a TV show and you only watch one episode.
Yeah,
It's like there's an entire there's an entire rest of this to build this kind of musical world around you, and that makes it just super dope. That's kind of what I've been finding out. Um, but so I have a question for you.
go ahead.
And I kind of made my own preconceived notions that were kind of confirmed, but like this is a very highly ranked album. Do you
Yeah.
think, like, you probably like it, but do you think it deserves that spot in your head? Do you think that this is something that was worth, is Pet Sounds worthy of being so high up there? I mean, it's kind of out of the blue. It's not
Yeah,
really something you hear a lot about.
but yeah, and I gave some thought to this because my first couple listens to the album, I was like, I really like this album,
Mhm.
but why is it ranked so high? I mean,
Yeah.
you compare that to last album we covered, Marvin Gaye.
Mhm.
Um, it's not nearly as meaningful lyrically,
Yeah.
and that kind of threw me off. But I was sitting there, I was listening to it. Joel just spilled coffee on his thing.
Sorry. You're being very serious.
But
Let's just
I
rub that in.
I had this realization of like, wow, like maybe most of the lyrics aren't as meaningful. There's a couple more meaningful songs,
Mhm.
but most of the lyrics aren't as meaningful. But every single sound on the album, in my opinion, is incredible.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think there's any other album I've discovered that every single minute detail I
Mhm.
adore.
Yeah.
I have albums that like there's not a second in the album that I don't like,
Yeah.
but it's every detail of this album is
Yeah.
just incredible. And I did a lot of research into like the background and like Brian Wilson's dedication to the album,
Mhm.
and um you can tell that like a lot of thought was put into it, and he was really revolutionary for the way he like mixed instruments together to
Yeah.
put sound together.
Yeah. Well,
But what are your thoughts on it?
well, so yeah, I mean, it's I'm a little bit of a music geek in some ways, but so, I can see the technical proficiency in some things, but I think what really gets me going about this album is I'm a big 60s, 70s music
Mm,
guy. And I think the fact that this album was released in 1966 is truly out of this world. Okay. So all the music around that era had like a very similar sound. Like you could, if Pet Sounds came out in the 70s, it wouldn't have been like so like crazy. It
Hmm.
kind of would have been standard. Pet Sounds really, I think, set the standard in the 60s for producing, for mixing, for just creating a completely different sound. Like just 2 years prior, the Beach Boys were making, the classic, your idea of what a 60s band looks like, where everybody's standing up in suits and they're going, doo up, shooby doo up, booby doo boop. And like, and like sure, the Beatles had some stuff that was coming out that was crazy, but from like an American side, there was nothing so progressive that was coming out. And so what blew my mind was they were creating these sounds and they were creating these stories. And like, yeah, it's not as deep as like Marvin Gaye's album, but the lyrics are still kind of like touching on like different stuff. Like they're talking about LSD experiences. They're talking about, there's stuff that
Yeah.
it's like this really is growing with the culture and it's really like the front runner. And I think in that case, I can definitely see why this is so highly ranked because all the sounds that came out of this are just, are following Pet Sounds. It's all because of Pet Sounds in a lot of ways. And you can hear it. You can hear it in the trumpets. You can hear it in like the synthesizers. There's just
Yeah.
like these drums and just like all these weird little sounds that float around in your head. And if you think about music in the 1960s, it's like this is new. Like this wasn't something people were used to. And I think I had that realization about it before I even went online and kind of looked into it a little bit more and was like, "Oh, why is this so good?" And it kind of confirmed what I was thinking of like this is kind of crazy for this era. So, I mean, I was very impressed with that.
Yeah. And I started to realize at first it was this album matches my taste in music.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. This album probably created my taste in music. And I was listening to music without even knowing like where it all came from. Like
Yeah.
I talked about AJR. I watched this video they did where they did a cover of Sloop John B, just like an outright cover.
Mm-hmm.
And they said the Beach Boys are our favorite artist and we love Pet Sounds right before
Yeah.
they did that. I like Weezer, and Weezer did a tribute song to
You look like
the
you
Beach
like
Boys.
Weezer.
Yeah. Well, you can tell because I'm a giant nerd.
He's quirky. That's why he
Yeah.
likes Weezer.
I love Weezer.
You little quirk nugget.
Although gosh, what? I say I like Weezer. I like 3 of their albums. But
That's probably more than I like. I haven't
Yeah.
listened to a ton of Weezer, so I think you're way ahead of me in the great quest for who's the biggest Weezer fan.
yeah. But also Panic at the Disco has like a whole song where he's kind of just comparing himself to the different members of the Beach Boys. And I didn't even realize
What song is that?
Crazy Equals Genius.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so basically he said he's talking to like this girl or something. I don't even understand the context.
They're probably talking about
Yeah.
a girl. It's Panic
But
at the Disco.
No, or she's talking to him and
Oh.
she says, "You're just like Mike Love, who is like not known as like the creative head
Yeah.
of the Beach Boys, and he's thought of as more of like a rote musician. He's gonna make standard melodies, standard lyrics."
Yeah.
And she says, "But you want to be but you want to be Brian Wilson, who was like the creative genius behind this
God
album."
on Earth.
And yeah, the god on or Dennis Wilson. She also says he wants to be Dennis Wilson. And so like the whole idea of the song, well, actually not the whole idea of the song, but the whole idea of those lyrics in the song is like you want to be held to this standard, the standard of Pet Sounds, basically.
Yeah.
But you're just a rote standard singer
Mm,
making standard music.
mm.
You're not this creative genius.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point though that Pet Sounds there is a lot of like riffs and things like music theory. I'm not disclaimer, I'm a fake musician.
We are Swine.
I don't know crap about crap. However, there are some riffs, some like combinations of notes in the way that they're put that's new. And I can pick up at like, like in music, like stuff gets sampled all the time. Like a chord, like a certain chord progression, unless it's like purely iconic, like the intro to like Stairway of Heaven, where it's
Yeah.
highly contested and all this stuff. But just like in little songs that I know, like there's a song called Rhinestone Cowboy that I really like. And there's just like some parts in it where I was listening to Pet Sounds and I was like, that same chord progression and everything that they did is in that song.
Hmm.
And it's like this pinnacle of music and but it's just something you never really hear about for the layman, I guess. Like it's just
Yeah.
not something you really think about.
Something that I also kind of realized is like lyrically, sure, it's not that deep, but it's kind of the perfect pop album.
Yeah.
Um, I was after we were recording the podcast one day, I was driving home and I was listening to Symphony by Clean Bandit. Just like your standard like EDM, like it's got those vague lyrics that are like, I just want to be part of your symphony. And it's just this vague yeah. It's this vague nothingness of lyrics where it's like
This is what you listen to when we're not reviewing albums.
I like that song. It's not my standard taste in music, but it's like good brainless
Okay.
mush.
Oh man, I kind of want to dig in on that a little bit more.
It's not. We have no time. We must move on quickly.
I want to know the inner depths of your soul and why you like EDM music. I like EDM music, but I just like there are some songs that you enjoy that I just like if I met you in a dark alleyway with you're holding a gun behind my back, I'd never think that's what you were listening to on the way over to rob me.
A very specific example.
That's what I think about every night before I go to sleep. It's just Trent with a gun on my back. Just like, have you listened to Pet Sounds yet? No, I'm getting to it.
Be careful. You better stay on
See,
task.
this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I mean, like I don't hate the lyrics to that song, but there's no
depth.
It's not a story. It's just here's some lovey-dovey lyrics.
Yeah.
Right? But all of these songs kind of tell a story.
Mm.
And it's general enough that you can kind of project your own situations on it. But
I like to project.
Yeah. It's also specific enough that the lyrics can actually like have meaning.
Mm.
And like kind of tell a story and you feel like they're real, like something actually happened there and you're interested.
That's how I felt with Oh Caroline. It's like that's a song about a chick that they know. It's like that.
Well, actually, it's super interesting. One of the anecdotes I read from his wife.
Is her name Caroline?
No.
Okay. Cool.
It's Marilyn.
Oh wow, so that's awkward for them. You sly dogs, you Beach Boys.
Actually, it was co-written by two people.
Okay.
And so it was Brian Wilson and one other guy. And it was about the other guy's wife. Or like his ex-wife, I think. Or like ex-girlfriend or something. His ex of some sort.
Okay.
And the original lyric was Carol, I know.
Ooh.
But Brian Wilson misheard it or something, and it became Caroline No, and they were like, "That's actually better. We're gonna stick with that." But Yeah, where was I going? I was going somewhere.
That's a good anecdote though.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Dang.
There's so much interesting about like the lyrics behind this album.
Man.
But Caroline No, which we're talking about like the last album or the last song on the album, like the thematic like breaking point right at the beginning. But sure, why not? Caroline No might be the saddest song for me that I've ever heard.
Really?
Yeah, like I mean there's sadder ways to break up than it's like, oh, we don't have feelings for each other anymore. There's sadder ways to break up. If you're cheated on, that's obviously sadder.
Yeah.
It might help that I've never been cheated on. But
I have no idea what that's like.
I was not trying to dig
You
at you,
looked
but I was
at
just
me, you stared in my soul.
I as I was saying it, I was
Getting
like
cheated on and then finding out in an Applebee's parking lot.
yeah, as I was saying
Life's
that,
crazy.
I was just like, oh, like I'm not subtweeting you, Joel, but you're gonna feel like you're getting subtweeted.
Just air
right
my
now.
dirty laundry
Yeah.
out on radio.
On the podcast. Let's talk about
on
it.
live
Yeah.
podcast.
But I'll talk about my dirt, right? Because I think this is incredibly like meaningful to me because it reminds me a lot of my last breakup.
Mm.
Where like he's looking so hard and he's just searching within himself to find that love that he had for her before. And that reminds me of the last day of the relationship I was in. And I had this Hail Mary idea that I was going to save the relationship and like find the fun in it again by taking her to the park, and we'll go and be silly and just have a great time. And I was really excited about the idea. And then she says, hey, like, I'm not going to be able to be there till 2 for our like lunch that we want to do. And yeah, it destroyed me. It's like, I have to be at work at 3. Like, so we go to the park and we kind of lay down on a blanket in the grass, just looking at each other and like trying to like ask fun questions to like get things sparked back up because we knew we were struggling. And I'm looking at her and I'm just like, how are we ever gonna get back to where we used to be?
Mhm.
How is that ever gonna happen? And like I was like, it's got to be inside of me somewhere. I searched so deep inside of myself to try and find that love that I used to have, not even that long ago. But I was just falling apart and there was so much hurt and pain. And the things that I used to love, I just couldn't find anymore. And that's what I hear when I hear Caroline No.
Dang, homie.
Yeah.
You need a hug.
Oh.
For those who weren't looking at the film, I just hugged Trent. He just shared a very emotional story. and
Yeah.
My man needs a hug.
Yeah.
Also, you're going to get a lot of cute girls from doing this podcast, so you better be
Ooh.
ready. They're going to hear that, and they're going to pour those bleeding hearts all over you.
Gosh. No, don't pour your bleeding hearts.
That was
on.
violent, but you know what I
Gosh.
mean.
Oh gosh.
No,
Stay away from me, pearls before swine fans.
you mean swine before pearls?
No. I hate that one episode Bible podcast.
We're getting their fans now. It's like some like mom all the way out in like Iowa or something. She's like 65, doesn't know how to use her phone, and then gets confused and starts listening to us.
Yeah.
She's like, "What happened to the Bible? All they do is talk about movies. I don't get it."
The something else I really like is we talked about kind of the dogs barking in the train going by. Like, I think that's such a strong like thematic capstone, and like it feels like a goodbye just hearing the train go by. It feels very final.
Yeah.
And then it stops and it's silent. And by the way, this album, I think, when it has so many fake outs for like the end of songs, and they all slap. They hit.
You want to know a bigger trip?
But wait, hold on. I'm not quite done.
I just talked over you. I just broke a cardinal sin.
The cardinal
We're a
sin.
bad
Okay.
podcast now.
We're
Go
a
ahead.
bad podcast. We finally talked over each other.
It was
But-
bound to happen.
I think it's only in the stereo version and not the mono version. But it loops back to the beginning of the album, and plays just a little bit of I forgot what's that first song called?
Well, I was going to tell my anecdote,
Oh, yeah.
which would
What?
make it more confusing for you,
Oh,
because I
gosh.
listened to it for the
Oh,
first
wouldn't
time
it be
on
nice?
shuffle.
You don't
So-
listen to it on
That's what I was trying to get to, and you're saying what was the first song, and I was like, honestly, I'm a little jumbled up
wouldn't
here
it be
because it
nice?
was just all
Yeah.
over the place.
But
I started with the trains.
what it ends with, wouldn't it be nice? And like a little bit from it.
Yeah.
And it feels like when you've broken up with someone and you remember like all of the good things, and that makes it hurt even more with all the other hurt you're going through. And that's what it feels like going through that end of the album.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can tell your story about how you're a godless heathen who shuffles
no,
album
that
on
was
first
it. That was
listen.
it. That was the first listen. I was listening to the first song, and then the second song came, and then there was a train and dogs barking, and I was like, man, that's a very interesting transition. And I kept on listening, and it wasn't until I got, to the end that I looked, and I was like, well, turns out that I missed the whole story of this.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
that adds the confusion.
I can share an anecdote that I could have shared for last week's podcast when I was listening to Right On. I had since the plan was to just listen to the album for the whole week.
Yeah.
And nothing else. I just set the album to loop, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I actually only set a single song to loop. And it turns out that Right On by Marvin Gaye transitions perfectly into itself. So I was probably 25 minutes into my drive on the car before I realized that I was listening to Right On throughout the whole drive. And I was man, I didn't realize that this song or that this album is so repetitive. Can we move on to some different instrumentals, please?
It's just looping over and over again.
Yeah. And it's like a 7-minute song too, so it really sneaks up on you.
Oh man. It's like listening to a Grateful Dead album. It's just like a 40-minute jam band, and you're like, does this ever change? No, it's still going. Could be the same song. Couldn't be. Ooh, I wouldn't know. I think it's interesting that you bring up Wouldn't It Be Nice, because I think that's it's a popular song from the album, but I think it's a great song because I think it fits into, man, talk about a song that encapsulates youthful relationships. Both when you're in them and both when you're out of them. That's a song you can listen to when you're driving down the highway in your Astro van with, no seats in the back or whatever, and your pillows, and you just, slap your hand down and you're holding hands with this babe and you're just chilling, and it's like,
right.
Wouldn't it be nice? And you're just like, oh yeah, baby, wouldn't it be nice if we were 20? Like, if we were older, and then, you're 23 and absolutely broken, and then you're thinking about, man, wouldn't it be nice? It fits it's such a happy song, but it can be such a sad song too. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like so hopeful. It's so ignorant. It's so ignorant of like how life actually is. It's like, let's just get older so we can sleep together, and just like we can be together all the time. And in reality, it's like that stuff's like a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility that goes with that.
There's so much responsibility.
It's truly a nice song.
It is.
I'm happy just thinking about it right now.
Especially that drum that just goes boom, and then it's like, wouldn't it be nice if we
older? Then we could get copyright strike for singing too much of this song. Yeah. I think the most relatable song lyrically, though, probably Pet Sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what goes on in my head all the time, lyrically.
You're just like,
doom, 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 pow. Although that might be that other one.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the
Yeah.
name, but
Oh, Let's Go Away for a While.
yeah, Let's Go Away for a While is like tripping acid in an elevator that keeps going up and down. Not that I've ever done that before, but I assume that's what the experience is like. We'll add that to our next experience
Okay,
list.
great. That next Pigs in the Field episode.
Next Pigs in the Blanket.
Next Pigs in the Blanket. We're gonna be tripping acid in the elevator
with Trent's mom.
Yeah. What?
I'm just trying to get you in trouble.
Yeah. I figured as much. Hi, Mom.
But yeah, no. Let's Get Away for a While is such. Actually, I think that it's close to being one of my favorite songs on the album, just because it's just such an interesting musical journey. It doesn't need a lot of words, you know. It's just like it is what it is.
Yeah. Every time I hear it, and we're circling back to Weezer, but there's a Weezer song called Holiday that uses the phrase "let's go away for a while." So all my brain wants to do is force that lyric into the song, and like every time it comes on now, I sing the Weezer song that doesn't fit over it because my brain's just stuck on it.
So what you're trying to tell me is you're a massive Weezer fan.
Well, Pinkerton is my favorite album.
Because you've talked about Weezer like 4 times.
I have.
So it's like,
well,
it's undeniable.
It's on my mind.
Are you ready to come out as a Weezer fan?
No. I am not a massive nerd.
Come on, Trent.
No, please, Dad. Wait.
Weezer is out there.
Weezer. Is that Weezer?
Yes.
Is it? They passed the door.
It's all the Weezer nerds, and they're standing in front of a blue screen.
Yeah. You know, sometimes
I don't really know anything about Weezer.
Yeah.
What are you saying though?
Their fans are nerds.
Yeah. I can see. I'm sitting right in front of them.
Okay.
You can tell I just hurt Trent really bad.
Oh, that's okay. I'm used to getting hurt by you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be nice now.
Time to be nice.
Wouldn't it be nice?
I'm gonna make this a Weezer podcast now.
Yeah, just take it over. Go ahead, make it a Weezer podcast.
Okay. No. Like
no,
we're
go ahead, go
we're
ahead.
canceling this podcast.
Go
like
ahead.
we're stopping this
Go
episode
ahead,
right now.
make it a Weezer podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys
go for it.
You guys ever heard? I don't even know.
Man, that didn't even last longer than the Bible Swine Before Pearls podcast. Man, we really got to get our facts straight about the names of those podcasts.
We just get stuck on the same topics, I think, is the issue.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We're not a good podcast.
We're a great podcast. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. So, I really took us on the train.
We got to get back on the rails.
I was so desperate to derail. We were talking about
we were talking about the instrument. Yeah, Let's Go Away for a While. Yeah, that's a very pretty song. Yeah, I think on a more like topical note, like Brian Wilson really wanted to be respected as like a composer when he made this album, and like those 2 instrumental songs are like, okay, let's take a break from like the poppy stuff and let's just flex.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got from it too. It was just like, let me flex my musical muscles here and just like be like, screw you guys, I'm gonna show you how good I am.
Yeah.
And I think it comes out pretty beautifully, honestly, especially for like the initial reception for this album wasn't that great for a little while.
That's because people in the 60s were nerds.
Yeah, they probably liked Weezer.
Yeah, I was about to make the same joke, so you're not funny.
Oh man, but yeah, Brian Wilson, I just have like a lot of respect for him.
Oh yeah,
like
poor fellow.
But
reading up on him, like, it's just so sad.
Yeah.
And I think that transitions well into
Beach Boys lore.
No, I'm going to talk about I Know There's an Answer.
Oh, okay.
Which is such a fascinating song to me.
Yeah.
Because at first it seems like just a critique of anybody who uses LSD. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very critical of people just tripping through the day,
Hmm.
who waste all their thoughts at night, and just like isolating themselves. And you're like, he just doesn't like people using LSD.
Yeah.
But that's wrong. He was actively using LSD
Oh
while he
yeah.
wrote this.
100%.
And it's less of a I hate that people use LSD, and it's more I hate that people use LSD wrong.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's critical of people self-isolating and using it as a way to like escape from life instead of as a way to like draw into themselves
Yeah.
and like find themselves, which is super interesting.
Yeah, and that was kind of the initial vibe because I knew some of the history a little bit, and I think, I can't speak too much on it, but I think especially dealing with psychoactive substances, there's a lot of different camps, right? And some of those camps are like you're a really grungy, weird dude, and you're basically using this like you would any substance, and you're using it to like remove yourself from society and create really unhealthy habits. And then there's the people who are like, Steve Jobs, who said, "Oh, like my LSD experience was the best experience of my life, and everything, from there was built from that." Now we have Apple. Like there are some people that use it to like like kind of, in a cliche way, but like open up their third eye and open their mind. And I really I got that a lot when I was listening to that song, of just like this guy's kind of like a drug elitist. But like he kind of has a valid point. It's like, well, if you're going to use it, do it right. Have a happy trip in a field or something and
Yeah.
write some music.
Well,
Not in your mom's basement.
did you ever hear "Hang On to Your Ego"?
No.
Okay, so in some editions of the album, like there's one where it has like the mono version
Yeah.
and then the stereo version
Yeah.
after, and slap dab in the middle, there's this song called "Hang On to Your Ego,"
Hmm.
and I wasn't listening to this version of the album before, so I ended up accidentally going to this one, and I found this song
Hmm.
called "Hang On to Your Ego," and I listened to it, and I was like, wait a minute, this is I Know There's an Answer. And it is up until the chorus. And instead of saying, I know there's an answer, he says, hang on to your ego. And instead of saying, I know now, but I had to find it by myself, he says, but I know you're going to lose the fight. So I was super interested and I looked into this. And the original lyrics are actually, hang on to your ego. That's the original song. And so basically what this song like originally was sort of saying is in the context of LSD, apparently like losing your ego or like having an ego death
Yeah.
is to like lose your sense of self entirely.
Yeah.
So he's saying don't lose your sense of self entirely. And I mean, I'm telling you that, but you're going to lose the fight.
Yeah.
You're just going to
go through ego death regardless.
Yeah, you're going to go through it regardless.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was actually Mike Love who stopped him and said, like, I don't like this. I don't like that it's just like so like LSD focused. So they ended up changing the words because Mike Love like refused to perform it. And like made it a little vaguer, even though it's still about LSD. It's like less specific now.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, Brian Wilson liked it better because like it didn't feel as harsh.
Yeah.
And he didn't want it to feel harsh.
And isn't it crazy that that's in like a pop album?
Yeah.
That's such a deep concept to tangle with. And it's in like a Beach Boys pop album.
Yeah.
Like you'd never think of it on the surface.
And even on my first listen to that song, I wasn't like I wasn't like thinking everything through. I was just kind of like listening through.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't like it sounds meaningful, but not nearly as meaningful as it is.
Mm,
And it's just such an interesting song to dive into.
wow. That is some deep Beach Boys lore right
Yeah,
there.
some deep beach. No, I last night I was just like, I'm going on to Genius and I'm going on to Wikipedia and we're gonna get some answers because I'm really interested in this album.
Huh. That's crazy though. I yeah, I think for an album in the time period it was, you know, I think we think about the 60s as like this very like, hippie culture, but in a reality like that didn't roll over really into the mainstream until the 70s, right?
Yeah,
So
probably not.
I don't know. I just keep thinking how interesting it is that this was really ahead of its time in so many ways, even just talking about the LSD experiences and whatnot. Like this just wasn't this was before, the Beatles were doing it with their big trip to India and they're like, "Oh, we're all enlightened now and we do a ton of drugs and like we make this kind of music now." And then the Beach Boys are just like, "Did you see that spit that just flew out of my
Yeah, that
mouth?"
was nasty.
Yeah, we just looked at
Nobody
that
nobody
together.
had to know about that,
Yeah, it's
Joel.
all right. I'm an open and honest person. I want to call attention to it.
Oh.
No, but I just like, I don't know, man. I think that there's just a lot of things like that that give me such appreciation for what they were building on because it really would become the fabric for music that we know today. And it's just like you don't hear about it enough.
Oh,
I don't think it gets appreciated as much as it should.
yeah. That song is really good, super meaningful. Um, yeah, I think a song I kind of want to talk about next because it really stood out to me is "I Just Wasn't Made for These Times,"
Mm.
and I want to hear some of your thoughts on it specifically. Like, what do you think it's about? What do you think it means?
Um I think it's I don't know. I think part of it is it's just introspective a little bit about the culture and it's kind of in the same vein or from what I got from it. It was kind of in the same vein as like Marvin like some of the stuff in the Marvin Gaye album where it's like kind of like looking around and you're just you're kind of out of place. You're looking at your current standing in culture, society, and you just, I don't know, you feel like you're out of place. I feel like with every generation, there's always that feeling of like, I should have been born in the future. I should have been born in it's just not being able to cope with, what's happening around you. I don't know. That's kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, um, and I think there is a lot of like truth to that. The some of the original intent, if you like look into it, was about like Brian Wilson kind of feeling like his musical talent, I think, was kind of pointless.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's not the meaning I get from it
Yeah.
when I listen to it. And this is my podcast, so I'll talk about whatever I want.
Well, what do you get from it?
For me, like the main thing it brings up is I think specifically um like the modern political landscape is what it makes me think of and what it makes me kind of feel.
Hmm.
And I think both of us have like kind of weird political like ideologies, sort of.
Yeah.
Not necessarily coherent.
I'm third chancellor at my local Xenon worshippers chapter
Yeah,
just down
exactly.
the road, and that definitely afflicts my political opinions to serve the
Yeah,
great Star Lord.
absolutely. But it's just a super weird time politically where like social media like
Mm,
very like it's very well documented that like people politically like have no common ground to stand on anymore
yeah.
and that it's like more and more divided and like that bothers me quite a bit
Mm,
and like I think especially because I'm surrounded by like such a wide variety of people,
Mm,
and like I try to be like a peacemaker for everyone.
yeah.
And it's hard being the same person and talking to all sorts of different people, and they all have like different ideas, and it's like nobody understands each other anymore,
Yeah.
which everybody says that, like even the most like politically like extreme people I've talked to have been like, man, nobody listens to each other anymore.
Nobody
Nobody,
cares.
yeah, it's like,
Whatever
yeah,
happened to just sitting down and talking through our
yeah,
differences?
like those people are so fake. But
Yeah.
um it's it's really, I really hate that.
Yeah.
And I hate that like everybody just sees each other as extremists, and
Yeah.
it's like I just
Not built for this.
I'm not built for
I'm
this.
not built for tough for
Yeah.
this.
And like I actually have specifically like made the decision that like I don't follow American politics.
Yeah.
Like I vote, and I research on what I vote, but only through like actually looking at the issues themselves.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I wish there was like a generation or a period of time in American society that we could pinpoint and say, man, I wish I was where I am now there, like that would have been so much better. But then you look at everything kind of, it's like, man, you're really kind of just dealt the cards you're dealt, and there's always going to be hardship. We're dealing with our new hardship, but it's like we're not having to be drafted in a world war.
True. That's true.
We don't have, crazy segregation stuff happening. Like there's good and there's bad. I think I think there's a big theme in this album, and it kind of ties back into like, wouldn't it be nice? Well, there's a little bit of like, I feel like this is the Beach Boys like album of like breaking off their kind of nice campy, we make surf music,
Oh,
and
I
kind of
wanna
getting
take
into
it.
some serious stuff. It's like a little bit of a loss of innocence in a way. And I think just in the same way that it's like, wouldn't it be nice, is like wishing you could grow up. I'm not made for these times, is like I'm
I'm not.
I want to be I want to be a kid again,
Yeah.
Because when we were kids growing up in 2008, did you know there was a recession going on? I didn't know there was a recession going
I knew
on.
because like people talked about it in school, but
I wanted to
didn't
play
care.
Super Mario Sunshine. I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled, so I just played on my tire swing and I played GameCube. And nobody told me there was a recession going on,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that bad for me,
And that theme is also really well laid out in "That's Not Me,"
Mm-hmm.
and he talks about like I'm moving to the city, and I'm starting a new life, but and I'm acting super independent, but everyone can see, and like I even see it, that that's not me. I'm not independent. I'm a mess,
Yeah,
and I'm not ready to grow up.
yeah. I want to be a beach boy,
I want to be
not a beach man.
yeah. So that's something we can all relate to.
That was profound.
Deep.
I want to be a beach boy, not a beach man. No, I felt that song a lot too, because I think there's been a lot of times in my life. I mean, I'm emotionally probably a 13-year-old, and there's been a lot of times in my life where I kind of swear that I'm making a fresh start. It's like, well, I'm gonna be responsible. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be, but I think we as adults, you're kind of still a little kid trying to like fake and pretend your way into the adult world until you just hope that it kind of clicks. And nothing is more devastating that when you kind of have those flashes of immaturity or flashes of like, I'm not actually getting this. I don't understand this. I'm just doing whatever. All my friends are buying houses. I have to buy a house too. I don't know about money. It's like, like I don't understand this. I'm still a kid. I kind of still want to be a kid, but I'm forced to grow up.
And it hurts because he talks about like I had this dream, so I packed up and moved to the city. Like that's kind of how we all are. I think I've gone into so many jobs, and I'm happy with my current job, like really happy. But I've gone into like so many of my jobs with just like these wide eyes, like this is gonna be it. This is gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
And then I actually get into the weeds of the jobs, and it's like, man, my life sucks.
Yeah.
And like that's part of adulthood, is realizing that like all this wide-eyed optimism can kind of just implode on you,
Yeah.
and being responsible for yourself is tough.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Catcher in the Rye. It's like, crushed idealism turns quickly into cynicism, And I think life for a young person really wants to kind of crush your idealism a little bit. And then that makes a lot of cynical people. And so I think it's really important to keep fighting back at that, and not just burying your head in the sand and saying, well, I give up. I can't fight anymore. I might as well just, work this job for 30 years and hate it and curse it every day, but this is just what I'm doing. It's like, no, we have so much more potential than that as young people. And, and I feel the same way. Like I go into every single job I've ever had with just this grandiose idea of like, I'm going to be a bug man and I'm going to kill bugs and people are going to call me to kill bugs and I'm really going to love this job and I'm going to drive around my green bug man and I'm going to make a lot of money. And then you're just sitting there and, in the middle of a downtown area, people are screaming at you because something went wrong or whatever. And you're just sitting there and you're like, I need to run away to the mountains and be a hobo and eat nothing but cheese and goat's milk. And you do that, but that's how life is. And I think that's really important to keep fighting back against that. And, who knows, you might make the next Pet Sounds. You never know what that stuff leads into.
Incredible. That's our future. We're
That's
going to
our
make the
future.
next Pet Sounds. We're going to make the Pet Sounds of podcasts, buddy.
We're going to make Pet Sounds 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Ooh. I don't think people will be as excited for this one.
Oh, no, I think they will be stoked.
Okay.
We have a massive following of 3 people that are going to pump this out.
This is going to be huge.
That's a good name for this episode. Pet Sounds 2 Electric Boogaloo. It'll already be on Spotify. Who can't say it can't be a real album? Oh, man.
It basically counts.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed this. This was a cool one to dive into.
Yeah.
And I just can I just give some words of af for you?
Okay, give some words of af for me, big boy.
You did a lot of really good research on this one.
Thank you, my love.
Like you really did.
Yeah, I was hyped for this one.
Like
I really wanted to like know what everything was about.
I did some research, but I didn't go to the lengths that you went to like. And it's cool that I get to hear it from you because now I know it too.
For the last album, you were kind of the big boy on the research.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on that.
This time it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to show how independent I'd grown. And that's me, baby.
You're a strong, independent woman.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I always wanted to hear that from you.
I know you did.
Okay. So this was one of the greatest albums in the world.
Yeah.
How are you better, big boy? I'm calling you big boy a lot.
Just keep going. I like it.
We're on some weird energy today.
To be fair, that's weird energy, but I'm cool with it. I have been eating. Okay, confession time before I go into that.
Joel's just looking to flex, by the way.
No. I ate 3 tubs of ice cream last week.
Big boy.
Big boy. So that is not far from the truth. I'm basically farting like Chernobyl's about to explode. It's really bad.
Thank you, Joel.
But they keep making different flavors of ice cream. Okay, quick anecdote before I get into this.
Okay.
I went to the ice cream aisle. It's something I do. And it's kind of like this walk of shame going to the ice cream aisle now because I know what I'm there for. I'm there to do something very bad. but very good. And so I kind of saunter my way on, in my trench coat over to the ice cream aisle. But for the first, it's always been me alone because I go and I buy my ice cream around 9 o'clock at night so nobody sees me, right? Because it's deeply, deeply shameful. But I walk in and I'm buying my ice cream, and then there's just two other dudes, and we're all standing in front of the thing, and then we all look at each other, and we kind of all realize what's going on. And I'm like, guys, I'm not going to say anything if you don't say anything. And they're like, yeah, just do it in moderation, okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, doing it in moderation. And I pull out like 2 pints of ice cream and walk out. And it was just like this very wholesome human moment of fellow ice cream addicts coming together at the local watering hole to fill our gut with more dairy products. So,
Joel, there are a lot of things you can do, and moderation is not one of them.
yeah, I'm trying. We're on the straight and narrow. Anyways, I thought that was a funny anecdote. Yeah. I am a big boy. Pet sounds.
Pet sounds.
What was your question?
It's the same question every week, Joel. Every week.
Did I like the album art?
No. Oh yeah. I'm kind of mad on the album art. But
yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
They're just like petting a goat.
Yeah. I think that also like contributed to my worries about the sound of the album before I'd heard it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we should do an album Pet a Pig.
Pet a Pig.
Just write that one down.
Okay. Steven's not writing
anything down.
Steven.
He's actually been writing a lot of stuff down.
Hey,
big shout out to our producer. So I definitely think that this lives up to where it needs to be on its standing. I think, is it my greatest album of all time? Personally, no, but it's something that I have a deep respect for, and it's something that I think when I first looked at the list and I was like, why is this on it? I think I've been thinking of music in terms of like good or bad, and not more. It's so two-dimensional. It's like, is this good or is this bad? It's not just like, is this well received? It's like, does this change the way we do things? Does this make us think a different way? Does this change music theory and producing a different way? This does. And I think that alone earns it a spot. So I think it's good. I think my opinion of it is very high.
Oh.
So what about you?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think part of what drew me in was it's patient zero kind of for my taste in music.
For the infection that is Weezer.
Yeah, I knew where that was going. But like so much of my taste in music was probably formed by this album, like, and that is so cool. And I'm in love with this album. I'm gonna keep listening to it after this episode because I love it. It's going on the playlist.
Yeah. It's like meeting your grandpa.
Yeah. Hi, Grandpa.
Hi, Grandpa. Pet sounds.
You're my cool grandpa.
Thank you for my nerd band that I listen to now. Okay, I'm sorry, Weezer. I'm really not being fair to you.
No, you're being absolutely fair. You're not being critical enough, quite frankly. You have no idea.
All right. So let's do my favorite thing that I get to do, the density meter. So if this album was a big fat chocolate cake, where would you rate it on the density meter? And I'm also open for like more than just 1 to 10. Like if 2 rubber duckies out of 3, I don't care.
Okay. Well, I think lyrically it's like a 3.
Okay.
And musically it's like a 9.
Ooh, 9. That's pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to it though.
That's at the bar.
That's the bar.
That's the bar.
Boom.
So now if you say Katy Perry's Dark Horse is a 10, that's the bar now. Because Katy Perry's Dark Horse is the best song ever written.
That's true.
She's a beast.
I call her karma.
I think if this was a big old chocolate cake, I'd throw it away because I hate chocolate cake. But if this was like maybe like an Oreo cheesecake, never mind. I'd throw that away too.
We're on such a weird energy.
If this was a healthy sandwich of density, I'd probably rate it. I think I'd rate it probably like a 4 lyrically. I think the LSD stuff needs to be given a little bit more credit where it's due for what it did for that period of time. And then I think the sounds, I'd put it at a 9 too. The pet sounds specifically.
Everything you said was just a 10 on the density scale.
That was very dense.
Very dense.
I'm a dense boy.
I know. I've been telling you that all day.
It's all the ice cream I eat.
All right.
I'll see you at aisle 12.
This has been Swine Before Pearls. We're going to go get ice cream.
Probably.
That's our little tradition now.
It is. It's nice.
Yeah.
It feels nice.
I'm going to give you guys a little kiss goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us trample on these pearls.
You're welcome.
Love you. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.